to start, as you can see, the very first one, cross-state counseling. The definitions I found for that, here, provision of cross-state counseling may involve clients who live temporarily or permanently in a different state or country than the provider. And we will talk about what to do for both of those things. Providers must be aware of the relevant laws and regulations that specifically address the delivery of clinical services between the different jurisdictions. So you need to know some specific laws if you're seeing somebody in another state before you begin with them. Interjurisdictional counseling occurring between and involving two or more jurisdictions. And that's why they named it that. But actually, it's the same as cross-state counseling. Cross-state counseling began when there were certain states that people traveled right over the state border and saw each other. So that's how that term came about. Originating site, it's important to know what this is because when you're looking up insurances and looking up the law, this term is used a lot. The originating site is where the patient or the patient's physician is located during the telehealth encounter or consult. Other common names for this term include spoke site, patient site, remote site, and rural site. This is also defined as the site where the client is located when the session takes place. In the years that I've been teaching this and the research that I've done, that's the best definition, the third one, where the client is located when the session takes place. So please remember that part right there as we go forward, because this will come up throughout the next 3 hours. And then distance site is where the provider is located at the time of the session. You would almost think that would be different if somebody's in another state. Isn't that the distance site? But distance site for insurances and for laws is where the provider is located at the time of the session. So originating site, where the client is, and distance site is where the provider is at the time of the session. We're going to look at some licensing and compact rules and guidelines. Providers can conduct treatment across state lines, but there are state and federal policies that must be followed. Some states have temporary practice laws. So if you want to see somebody for a couple weeks or 30 days, you can do that in some states. But there are things you have to look into that might have to be done prior to that happening. Some states have joined into agreements through an interstate compact. You want to check to see if your profession's involved in a compact within your state. And then you want to check to see if your state is the member of the compact, or if your client state where they are is a member of the compact. So is your profession a member of the compact? Do they even have a compact? And then is your state a member of that? And is the state where the client's located a member of that compact? All three need to take place. Compact versus license. Your license is granted by your home state. A counselor's home state is the state in which they primarily reside. So that's what home state means. You might see that throughout the next 3 hours too. So home state is where the counselor normally presides and has a license. A compact privilege to practice is granted by other compact member states after you've applied for the privilege to practice through the compact of that state. So you have a privilege to practice when you have a license, but you can also get a privilege to practice with the compact and other things as well. Counselors must have a license or a privilege to practice in the state where the client is located. And this is where I received that information. So privilege to practice is defined as the legal authorization permitting the practice of professional counseling in a remote state. The remote state, again, is the state where you are located. A remote state is defined as the state other than the home state. That mixed up. Okay, so the remote state is the state other than your home state. Home state is where you are. Remote state is where they are or where you are at the time of a session other than your home state. License reciprocity, so license reciprocity is you can have that when you use a compact or when you have a license. in another state other than your own. So reciprocity is the mutual agreement of privileges to practice between states for business purposes. This is where one state automatically recognizes licensure in another state. Each state agrees to allow each other to have the same rights. And sometimes two states that are close together and they share a license reciprocity for cross-state counseling. Compacts provide states reciprocity through the opportunity to cooperatively reformulate policies to mediate cross-state care. So they have the same rules and laws to follow. Active compacts are these on this slide. And I have looked at all of those. Interstate Medical Licensure Compact, of course, was started a long time ago because there was a need for specialists in other states, and Interstate Medical Licensure Compact makes it easier for doctors to get a license in that state and take care of those patients as needed. So that's been going on for quite a while. And then Nurse Licensure Compact and Advanced Practice Registered Nurse Compact. Then there's the Emergency Medical Services Personnel Licensure Compact. Really great to have, especially when there's emergencies like hurricanes and tornadoes and things of that nature. And using telehealth saves lives because you can't always get the doctors to the site, but you can possibly get them on internet and have the needs met that way. And then Physical Therapy Compact. I actually talked to a physical therapist that says that they have actually used this when their client went on vacation. And also when they moved away for 3 months to help their parent, they actually used the Physical Therapy Compact to see their clients. Audiology and Speech Language Pathology Interstate Compact and the Occupational Therapy Licensure Compact. And the ones that are probably most important to many of us today are the Counseling Compact, Social Work Licensure Compact, and the Psychology Interjurisdictional Compact. I'm going to review some of these, especially these three. Now, Interstate Compact is a formal agreement between two or more states that bind them to the provisions of the compact. So if you are using a compact, then you're going to be bound to follow the rules of that compact. Compacts are created to regulate participating states while providing healthcare providers an opportunity to join the compact and provide services within the states participating. Compacts also allow providers in participating states to receive practice privileges in other participating states easier than through obtaining a license in another state. So by obtaining the privilege to practice through a compact, you don't have to go through all the steps it takes to get a license in that state. Legislation to join compacts for advanced practice nurses, social workers, physician assistants, dentists, dental hygienists is anticipated to be introduced in 2024. They've almost got the social workers one up and running. The provider usually still needs to apply to the other participating states where they want to serve clients and may need to pay fees or take tests on the other state laws in order to be able to use the compact. There's different rules and regulations. The clinician most times does not receive an additional state license, but rather allowed to practice in the new state. Healthcare licensure compacts are set up to allow a licensed person to practice in any state that has adopted the compact when all the appropriate steps are taken. So not making it completely simple, but making it easier than getting a license in another state. So steps to participate in a compact are to register with the compact governing body or commission, to choose in which compact state to apply for a privilege to practice, complete the application, pay the fees, take any tests required by the state. To me, this would be a good option if you're one of the people that, I live in Florida, and I used to live in Illinois, and there are people that live in Illinois 6 months out of the year and live in Florida 6 months out of the year. I live here 24/7. I'm here all the time. But if I were to go back and forth, I would want a license in both states, or I would want to participate in a compact if the counseling compact was sufficient to make that happen for me. And that might be easier than getting a license, because when I moved here, I had my license in Illinois. and I applied for reciprocity to get a license here in Florida. And those of you that are with us today from Florida, you know that's not always an easy task, because Florida has regulations and rules, and they have extra classes that you need to take. So I had to take 3 extra classes, graduate degree classes, in order to have my license renewed, plus take 6 CEU programs and make sure that everything else was in line as well. So it took, I think, 9 months for that to happen before I was able to get a license. And getting a temporary in the meantime, which I did, you have to be supervised, and I really didn't want to do that. So I didn't see people in Florida until I got my license. So that's how I handled it. I felt like it would be better for me, more ethical and more legal, to have a license in Illinois while I'm seeing my Illinois clients, and to have a license in Florida where I was when I was doing the counseling. So it worked. That's what worked for me, but that's not always the best answer for all of us. So you have to take this information, assimilate it into your life, and figure out what's going to work out best for you.